Oh, this is CG Ruthless Sports. I will be brutally honest. Ain't nothing but being brutally honest. Coming at you with another video. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome my guest, and he's been a familiar face for quite some time. Let's welcome my guy, Marc Adams from the 49ers Camelot. Man, how's it going?
What's up, CG? Excited to be on here with you.
Same here, man. It's been a great season, but it was a little short on the outcome, but it is.
Yeah, that stunk, but it would have been a lot better if they had a chance to actually win the game. I mean, like losing the game last year against the Rams, that really stunk because you have a 10-point lead going into the fourth quarter and you blow it. That really stinks. But man, this one's just different. This one, it's like they never even had a chance to show what they could do. So that stunk.
Yeah, the last game, it was hard to be upset in any other way because there was nothing we can do about it. But like you said, the Rams one, that one was kind of like stinging a little bit. But this one to me was hard to like sting. It was more like we were beat down while we were down. So it was like,
yeah.
But anyways, man. So like, I see that you had your new channel, and I'm wondering where people can find your new channel, man. I see you have some good content going on. You had my boy John Chapman on your show the other day.
Yeah, it's brand new on YouTube at 49ers Camelot. And I had John Chapman last week. Earlier this week, I had Ted from TED Talks Ball on there. And so those great guys, hoping to get some others lined up here soon. And last year I write for 49ers Web Zone. And so last year, about a year ago, I wrote a story about why Roger Craig deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. And I think that maybe a couple of us may do some kind of podcast series on that. And so hopefully we'll be getting going on that pretty soon. And so that's going to be a lot of fun if that comes together like I'm hoping it does.
Well, count me in line for your show, man.
Yeah.
Let me just put my hand up so I can go into this next episode of your show, man. I'll be more than happy to be on your guest.
Yeah, definitely. Have to get you on there sometime.
Yeah, it is. I mean, you have a good point. Like, Roger Craig should have already been in the Hall of Fame because he revolutionized the running back position to where they were receivers and all a bunch of stuff. And you see guys like Marshall Faulk get into the Hall of Fame with the similar skill sets. I mean, I don't want to discredit a certain individual, but if a guy like Terrell Davis can get in the Hall of Fame, why not Roger Craig?
Yeah.
It's beyond me. I'm not discrediting what Davis did. He was an outstanding running back, but he had a short career.
Mm-hmm.
But if he can get in, then there should be no problem with Roger Craig.
Yeah, I mean, all you have to do is look at the fact that Bill Walsh, Matt Mayoko told me this, that before Bill Walsh died, that Walsh told him that he wasn't able to fully run his offense until he drafted Roger Craig. That's all you have to know, that the great Bill Walsh couldn't fully use his offense until he had Roger Craig. And we saw how Christian McCaffrey changed the 49ers offense. Same kind of player. And Kyle Shanahan used him the same way that his dad used Ricky Watters, and Mike Shanahan was using Ricky Watters the same way that Bill Walsh used Roger Craig. So there's something to that. A guy like that, Thurman Thomas, was like that for the Bills. Just brilliant. And Marshall Faulk, you already mentioned him, but yeah, those kind of guys that you can line up anywhere, man, they are just weapons. And when I did my story, I got to interview several 49ers former 49ers, and one of them was Joe Montana. And I asked him, hey, here's what Bill Walsh said, that he couldn't use his offense to the fullest until he had Roger Craig. And I asked him, what does he mean by that? And he said it was all about mismatches. So he said, basically, we can line Roger up wide. We can put him in the slot. We can put him in the backfield, and we can move down the field and not have to make any kind of substitutions. And when we can do that, the defense doesn't have time to substitute. And so we're always able to get a mismatch. If we put Roger out wide, no corner is going to be able to tackle him. If we put him in the slot, no linebacker is going to be, or in the backfield, no linebacker is going to be able to stay with him. You put him in the slot, you're going to get him on a linebacker or a corner, and that's advantage 49ers. So yeah, it's just, he changed football, and he definitely should be in.
Yeah, it's a rare trait for most running backs at the time. So, when Bill Walsh wanted to build his offense, he wanted to build an offense to where a running back had 1,000 yards receiving and 1,000 yards running, and he accomplished that. Right. I like to say hello to Ms. Burgain. Condolences to your team's Super Bowl loss. I know what the feeling is, and hey, it is what it is. But hey, you guys beat us. I know. But I got to give respect to those Philly fans. I wasn't like most of the Niner fans. I wasn't beating them when they were down because, honestly, we have nothing to say, and plus we were injured at that point. So,
yeah,
I stayed low-key quiet, so I'm not one of those other guys. But I can't speak for all of us, but some of them felt a little upset about it. I just say I can't be upset, man, because we just got beat down. So.
Yeah, and that happens, that's just part of it. The thing that bugged me was that a lot of Philly fans at the game, just because I heard from a lot of 49ers fans and heard from some people on the radio, some of the guys from 95.7 The Game.
Well, they told me about
that. It was crazy, the things that were said to them, and they were spit on, and that's just not normal stuff. And so for those Philly fans, they deserve to lose, but for the good Philly fans, yeah, we know what it's like, and yeah, I'm not going to rub it in their face because, hey, they made it. So
yeah, I mean, I'll at least give them their props, for Philly Mike. I talk behind the scenes. He's got a good podcast for the Eagles. I told him, dude, I don't got nothing to say to you guys. And then Philly 500 and Bergen and the rest of them, and then you got Lord Brunson, who was on my show. Yeah, I get it. They were overlooking us a little bit, and we were overlooking them, and it was fair game. But I got respect for them for what they do. But
yeah,
I'm not like most of the other people. I'm not gonna start off all that stuff with all of them. So yeah, hey, how's it going, Nosdar? But when you look at the offseason, there's just a certain key theme that we need to address. So we go from this offseason with a new defensive coordinator. So how did you feel about the hiring of Steve Wilks?
I liked it a lot. I originally I wanted Vic Fangio. I wasn't sure. I had heard that he was willing to adjust his 3-4 defense to more of a 4-3 to keep Nick Bosa in a 3-point stance, which is what he wants. And so, and to kind of keep that defense the same way. But then I started hearing the opposite, that he wasn't wanting to change to a 4-3. And then the next thing we hear is Kyle Shanahan at the end of his press conference at the end of the season. He said, we don't want to change. We want the defense to be the same. And so when that happened, I was like, I don't know. And then the next thing you know, Vic Fangio is going to Miami. So then at that point, I was like all in on Steve Wilks because he did a great job in Carolina with a piece of crap team. I mean, they traded away their best player, thankfully, because the 49ers got him. And yet he still was able to win some games there. And so The guy, I like him. You know, he comes from the same kind of scheme as the 49ers run. But I heard somebody the other day, and I don't even remember who it was, or I'd give them credit, but they said something to the effect that it was statistically based, that Steve Wilks blitzes at a higher rate than what the 49ers have been doing. So that'll be interesting to see, you know, with the way the 49ers, like with Bosa and Armstead and some of the guys that they have that they can put pressure on the quarterback with just 4, will he need to blitz as often? So hopefully he's going to be really aggressive, because I like an aggressive team that gets after the quarterback.
Oh yeah, that's what makes him so interesting. Is he is an aggressive play caller and he has more experience. Under the previous years when Shanahan had his coordinators, they didn't have any experience, so they were mostly guys that were position coaches, and they became head coaches within the next couple of years. Hey, how's it going, Brian Cope? Good to see you, buddy.
What's up, Bryant?
Yeah, how's it going for everybody else? How's it going, Daniel? How's it going, Flame Dragon? Everybody else, man. But what I really like about Steve Wilks as a coach was, I don't know if this was true, but I heard behind the scenes the reason why he traded Robbie Anderson was his attitude. He told him that wasn't going to work here, and he traded him.
Yeah, I did hear that as well. And if that's the case, you know, hey, I'm all about that. I want a coach that's going to take charge and not be afraid to get rid of players that aren't in it for the right reason. So yeah, that's and from everything that we've heard, Steve Wilks is a great leader, and a defense like this needs a great leader. They don't need some weakling coming in and hey, you guys are great, so like, you know, they need somebody that's going to come in and command the room and take charge and scheme up some great games, and I think that he's going to be good for that.
Yeah, and it's kind of like intriguing when I saw that what happened with the incident was that's when he got rid of Robbie Anderson. He says, if you don't want to be a part of this team, we're just going to trade you. And it kind of has that little flashback of Mike Singletary, the way he doesn't deal with players like that. He's an old school coach too, so his coverage, it's a cover 3, I believe, and he does really well with the secondary. So that's why I really like this hiring, because it's more to do with our DBs. It's a little of our weakest link at times.
Yeah. And you know, on Monday I had Ted from Ted Talks Ball on with me, and he was talking about this and how now the 49ers have a really good coach at all 3 levels on defense. So, you know, the defensive line, and then at the linebackers they have Chris Kasarik at the defensive line. At the linebackers they have Johnny Holland, and then now Steve Wilks for the secondary. And partly it's a young secondary. I mean, Charvarius Ward's not young, but you look at Talanoa Hufanga and whoever, I don't know what they're going to do. Free safety. Yeah, Lenore, Ambry Thomas, Samuel Womack. And then last week when I had John Chapman on my show, he said, keep your eyes up. He wasn't ready to predict this, but he said, keep your eyes on Quantrez Knight. He said that Quantrez Knight has taken snaps at free safety. Is it possible that he could end up being moved to free safety? You know, who knows if Tashawn Gibson's going to come back. Jimmy Ward sounds like he's gone. So they may need and Tarvarius Moore. He's a free agent. So they may not, the whoever's free safety may not be here yet.
Yeah, like Jimmy Ward's going to probably expect a little more money, but I'd be shocked if he comes back on a reasonable contract. Deshaun Gibson, it would be kind of a good move to bring him back because of the veteran experience, and plus he did pretty well. Him and Hufanga were working well together, so it would probably be nice to bring him back on a shorter deal into, you know, there's an open spot, so it is definitely the free safety. I think the nickel spot, if I'm being realistic, I would want to give Womack an opportunity to play that spot.
Mm-hmm. And, you know, and early on he was the guy, but it kind of was like what Diamador Lenore faced last year, where he started out looking like he was going to be the guy, and then he ended up just disappearing for the rest of the season. And that's kind of how it went with Womack. And part of it is that Jimmy Ward came back from injury, and here's Tashawn Gibson playing really well, and the defense was just dominating at that time. And so to get Ward on the field, they put him in the slot, and obviously he's going to be better in that spot than Womack. But I think next season Womack's going to get his shot.
I think, to be fair, he did look pretty solid when he got a chance to go out there. I mean, I don't know if this was true, but behind the scenes, man, I seen Jimmy Ward not liking that role. And I guess Shanahan says if you don't want to play that role, then you can just sit on the bench.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and Ward, it wasn't behind the scenes. He wasn't really hiding it, especially early on. He wasn't happy about it. But, you know, he did what he could do for the team. And it was a good setup for the rest of the season.
I think that's what he had to do, was embrace that role. Do you want to be on the bench or do you want to play? That's just what Shanahan wanted to do. He wanted to use his best players on the field. If he feels like you can contribute, he's going to put you out there. So,
right.
So, like, you speak of it like the DBs, you know, the DB coaches. I'm hearing that we're probably going to just promote Daniel Bullock. I don't know if that's going to happen, or we might go look outside the organization, or maybe Steve Wilkes will have both titles.
Yeah, I don't know. They definitely like to promote from within. So I definitely would keep an eye on whoever are the up and comers, because those are the guys that are going to get shots. I mean, you look at Kubiak, the Clay Kubiak. There are some. I saw that Matt Barrows is predicting that he's going to be the one that is going to be taken over for who just left to go to with D'Amico Ryans from the offense.
Bobby Slowick.
Yeah, Bobby Slowick. So Matt Barrows was thinking that Kubiak might be promoted and become the passing game coordinator. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, and you know, we just promoted Brian Fleury to be the OC. I don't know if that's a full title, because we had it with Mike McDaniels before. So I'm pretty sure he'll have some play calling duties, but it's not going to probably be as much because Shanahan's still doing the play calls. Just because you have the title does not mean you have full responsibility.
Yeah, right.
It's more like we want to keep you so nobody can take you type of thing.
Right.
And yeah, and you know what? See, she's a good sport. She ain't like one of those harsh Philly fans, so I guess she's being respectful. But she's a good contributor to the network we do. So most of what I do on my network is I work behind the scenes with a lot of these Philly fans. So I guess that's why I have a special heart for them, because I don't try to go hard on them like that.
Mm-hmm.
We all have a mutual enemy. That's the Cowboys. We hate the Cowboys.
Yeah, everybody hates the Cowboys.
And we did them a favor too, so that kind of gave them something to look forward to. But when you look at what's going on with the Niners, man, like, I'm pretty sure a lot of our edge rushers, they're likely going to I mean, I don't know how many we're going to retain, but there's some guys in free agency that I think we're probably going to get that next Arden Key or that next Kerry Hyder type breakout player. But here's a player that most people are probably not going to pay attention to, and I think it wouldn't surprise me if we sign him. But check out so it's going to be this one guy. I'm going to give you 3 Pacific players, and you tell me if it's possible. Okay, Colin Farrell from the Raiders. Not quite your typical breakout player. Hasn't panned out for the Raiders, and they haven't picked up his 5th-year option, so he's likely going to be a free agent. Do you think he's possibly going to go to the Niners and maybe prove himself?
That's possible. I definitely think, like you said, they kind of tend toward, first off, along the defensive line, they want depth. And so they don't normally go after superstars. I sometimes wish that they would on the defensive line because Javon Kinlaw, he hasn't panned out. Hopefully he's going to be what this is going to be his 4th season. And unless he just really shows something great, they're not going to pick up his 5th-year option. So this could be Javon Kinlaw's last season in 2023. Yeah. So they have to find somebody, because they really missed DJ Jones. When he left, that hurt. And because he not only was the run stopper, but he could, on passing downs, he could put some pressure on the quarterback. And they just didn't get that from the guy next to Eric Armstead this year. So I think that guys like that that, like the Kerry Hyder or the Arden Key, that, are guys that are well thought of, but they just haven't yet had that breakout season. I definitely could see a guy like that becoming a target.
Yeah, and he probably wouldn't have to cost too much. He'll have to prove it. And then you got another guy. This one guy that I've been keeping my eye on, and I'm hearing his name is a little bit on the buzz, but he's not a big name, but he comes from the Houston Texans, Albanaye Okoroku. I'm familiar with the name because he was with the Rams, didn't play too much, played at Oklahoma, one of my favorite colleges in the world. But this guy was ascending from the Texans, so he had a season best, which is 5 sacks, and I think he's going to draw a little interest in free agency. Do you think it's possible maybe we bring him in on a prove-it deal or sign him exactly to what we had with a Samson Ebukam type contract?
That's possible. I've heard his name, but I'm not super familiar with him. So yeah, that's possible.
Yeah, it's definitely possible. And then I got the other suggestion, Arden Key. He's a free agent, man. Do we even give him a little opportunity? Do we give him a multi-year type deal, or do you think he's going to ask too much?
So Arden Key's a free agent again?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that, but yeah, I definitely would like to see him come back. Hopefully he's not going to be trying to get the really big payday, because I don't think that he's that guy. I think he's more of a rotational guy that you're going to stick in certain spots. I'm not sure that he's the guy that's going to start, that's going to be on the outside. It's going to be putting pressure, and then moving, he's the guy that can move around on the defensive line and definitely rotate. But to me, he would be more rotational. He's not going to replace Ebukam or Amenahu. Charles Amenahu had a good season.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So I'd like to see him back, but I don't think he's going to come back because I think he's probably going to get paid more than what the 49ers are going to want to pay, because what they do is they evaluate their players. They set a fair market value for them, and they typically don't go above that. And so, for example, if they have a player that they evaluate at $12 million a year, and that player goes out and is offered $16 million, they're going to stand pat at where they are. And so that's why there are guys like Arden Key that leave, and Kerry Hyder Jr. who left. And so, yeah, I think that Arden Key was good for the 49ers, and I definitely would like to see him back if the price is right.
Yeah, if the price is right. And then speaking of the D tackle, what you were talking about, like since DJ Jones was gone, we haven't had that one guy that stood out. But there's a guy that's moving under the radar in free agency, and he actually did pretty well in the Super Bowl. By the way, I think he was Colin Sanders. This guy he's a run stopper. He's kind of built exactly the same as DJ Jones. He kind of showed some flashes as a pass rusher, a little bit disruptive, and he had a sack in the Super Bowl where I believe Jalen Hurts had that fumble.
Yeah, that definitely would be a good choice. Maybe like a Hassan Ridgeway kind of player. With DJ Jones, he just not only was he built perfectly to stop the run, but in those passing situations, the guy is quick. And so, they brought in Hassan Ridgeway to maybe be that DJ Jones kind of guy, but he just wasn't it. And of course, we already talked about Kinlaw, but yeah, that might be another good one.
Yeah, especially what you said. Like DJ Jones was quick and he made plays. He moved a lot fast for his size, so that's why it's hard to replace him. And I can see why his market value went really high. So. Yeah. The area of concern from the Niners' perspective on offense is just mostly two of the offensive line spots, I believe. Like, you have to look at the center spot. I don't know if we're going to retain Jake Brendel, but I don't know if as realistic as I can be, I think we can settle for something better.
That's my hope, too. I'd like to see him upgrade. Brendel had a good season. He was a Pro Bowl alternate. So, by and large, he was good, but I definitely would like to see the 49ers do better at that position. And so we'll see. I think it's going to be interesting. Right tackle, what's going to happen there? Is it going to be Colton McKivitz? Is it going to be Jalen Moore? John Chapman suggested that maybe they'll move Daniel or Spencer Burford to right tackle and bring back Daniel Brunskill to play right guard because he's a free agent as well. And so that's pretty intriguing. If Burford could play right tackle, but yeah, I think Brendel. I think that he's going to be one of the ones that they're going to be making a priority to bring back.
It's just I feel like there's a little bit of his game that I have a problem with. Like a lot of this illegal man downfield, his block, and he can be a little pushed over, and then he gets called for holding. And I mean, I see his pro football grades and all that. That he's only allowed 1 sack this season, but majority of the time when he faces the bigger guys, he doesn't really tough up. Like the Eagles' defensive line freaking demolished him. Like you had McGlinchey getting pushed over by Micah Parsons on the Cowboys. I mean, I know I was probably getting a lot of flack on calling out Jake Brendel, and I guess Jake Brendel took no exception and blocked me from Twitter because I called him out on his blocking a lot of the stuff. And, when I know the weakest link and if I see something wrong with this individual, I'm going to call him out. And I don't do it for clout. I just do it for like showing him what he needed to do better on. And I guess he didn't take it very lightly. So
yeah, I'm sure he didn't. Yeah. I was hard on him at times, but for being his first season starting in this offense, I think that he did better than what we were thinking he would do, because going into the season, if you'll remember, most of us were really concerned with a center that is starting for the first time,
and 2 of the guard spots,
a rookie right guard, and then a second year guy at left guard who had never really played in his rookie season. So that was kind of nerve wracking, but the 2 guards held their own and played pretty well. I mean, they had their moments where they would blow it, but yeah, I if they can upgrade at center, I'm all for that. But if they bring Brendel back, it's kind of hard to say. But if they bring him back, then I'm not going to have a problem with that.
Oh no, it's like maybe for a short-term type of like depth purpose. I mean, like at least bring in a rookie center, maybe to compete, or maybe just have a year to learn, and then that's it. As far as like what you said about the guard spots, Aaron Banks going into last year was a question mark for me because I didn't see the guy play as a rookie. And I saw his film come out of Notre Dame that he was a really good, I think he was a really good pass blocker too, and had a really solid run block grade. And I believe Mike McGlinchey was pushing for him to get drafted from what I was told. He was somebody that I wasn't sure about, but I didn't criticize him. I didn't say nothing about him because I didn't see any film out of this kid, so I had to leave it alone. So Spencer Burford was one of those guys that I just unfortunately was lucky enough to have an opportunity to interview. This was before he even got drafted. And I did a lot of my due diligence. I checked out some offensive linemen like I always do, and I always look at the one player that nobody talks about. So I checked out some Senior Ball films, and I saw a couple of content creators do some highlights of this guy Burford. So I checked them out, and I really like what I've seen from this kid. And what really caught my attention was I found what his Twitter account was, and I tagged him in and see if he wanted to go on the show. And it only took him maybe a day or 2 later or so. Didn't even take him that long to respond back to me. And then he just follows me, and then he puts in a message like saying, yo, or something like that. And then he just tells me, he said, okay, I'm interested in going on the show. And since then, I've been pretty high on this guy. I mean, he can play. I mean, when I first interviewed him, he was a tackle coming out of college. Played guard first 2 years. This kid, he can move at any spot. He just never played center.
Yeah, so maybe John's theory about Burford moving to right tackle. Maybe there's something to that. Um, that would be a really interesting move for sure.
I actually uploaded one of Burford's highlight videos where he was playing tackle. So his college film was playing that right tackle spot or whatever he was playing at. So if you want to see what he was in college at that tackle spot, you'll see why John Chapman is on board for this one.
Yeah.
And I mean, anybody else that hasn't seen that interview with Burford, man, I'm telling you, it was 27 minutes of my time with this kid, and he knows the game from straight up, and he played this game ever since he was a little kid. They told him he wasn't he was big guy. Even as a 5-year-old, they said he was big enough to play or something like that. And then when he was 4, they said he wasn't big enough. But when he was 5 or 6, they let him out there, man.
That's funny.
It's phenomenal.
Yeah, that's cool.
I can see why John Chapman has that belief, man, because if you watch his highlight from UTSA, he did play tackle the last 2 years.
All right. That's good. Yeah, I'm glad to know that, so that's 2 from John Chapman, Spencer Burford at right tackle and Quantrez Knight at free safety. It'll be cool. If those 2 come back, if those 2 come to pass, then that'll be really interesting to see.
Yeah, I see where John Chapman's coming from, and he's not wrong. I think it's possible if they want to improve more of the guard spot, they can just swing in Burford at the tackle spot because he's already familiar at that spot too.
Yeah.
And he knows how to, if you checked out a lot of his highlights, man, that dude was run blocking. Like, everybody thinks of him as Trent Williams Jr. out there at the tackle spot, man. That dude's a beast. Every now and then I get his response, but I'll tell you what, that dude is the most humble person I've ever interviewed.
That's cool.
Yeah, offensive line, it should be a priority for sure. If we're going to bring back Brendo, at least draft a center, please. At least get somebody who can step in case he doesn't do well. Tackle, it's questionable, like you said. It can either be – but here's my suggestion. I don't know if this sounds kind of weird in a way, but I would rather put Brunskill at tackle personally.
Yeah, I know that he's played it. What in 2019, I think.
And he did pretty well.
Yeah, and you're right, he did. So that could be a possibility. Don't forget that they still have Jason Poe, and there are a lot of people that are high on him at the center position. So that would be something to watch as well.
Oh, Jason Poe, that's another guy that I had the chance to interview too. And this guy played all interior spots too. This guy, I say he should be a center because he can really move quick for his size. He did play guard in college too, played in the smallest competition, but he's dominated the competition. Oh, here's another guy that Crazy just brought up. Everybody forgot about this guy, Nick Sagel. We just drafted him in the 6th round, coming out of Fordham University. I think he played all positions coming out of that college. He played center, guard, at tackle, I believe, all positions.
Yeah, I don't know if Nick Zakelj is going to get a shot at center, but definitely guard and maybe tackle as well. And he could be in line to get a shot at center. I really don't get any lead on how they're planning on using him. So that's a good call. That could be a good name to remember.
And to be fair, Aaron Banks didn't play as much as a rookie, so maybe it's the same with Nick Zakelj. Maybe there's a plan in place with him. Maybe if Brendo leaves, they do have a plan in place with the center. So.
Mm-hmm. Or they move Zakelj to right guard and move Burford to right tackle. I don't know.
It's possible.
Yeah, but they kind of do this sometimes with offensive linemen, especially when they're young, kind of stash them away and almost redshirt them. That's what they did with Banks and now Burford. He played, and so I think that says a lot about him. Might say a lot about Brunskill as well, but I think that's That was an interesting one. I hadn't forgot about Zakel, but I hadn't thought of him at center. So that'll be a good one to watch.
He played pretty much all positions at that spot. So he's played, like in college, he was playing tackle, guard, and center. Probably because of the injuries at that spot, so they moved him around.
Mm-hmm.
So when you look at it that way, man, I think that's where we stand at. But if we don't bring back Brando, it's probably understandable why we wouldn't bring him back, maybe because we have somebody in place. But for the tackle spot, I would be shocked if we bring Mike McGlinchey back, but I'm hoping in some ways we move forward. I mean, I don't know. McGlinchey had some moments. He didn't do too bad, but still, he's kind of a liability in pass blocking. I mean, how do you get ragdoll by a 245-pound linebacker?
Yeah. Well, I think that by and large, McGlinchey's not too bad. It's just that he has some plays like that everybody gets to see over and over again, and so it makes him look worse than he is. But I don't think he's going to be back because tackles in the NFL are hard to come by, and I think that McGlinchey's going to get paid. And I don't think that I think he's going to get paid more than where the 49ers have him evaluated. So I really don't expect him to be back.
Do you think maybe possibly we draft a tackle maybe in the third round or fourth or anywhere around those round drafts, or maybe not?
Yeah, I think they're going to definitely draft an offensive lineman, and it's probably going to be somebody who can play multiple positions, like a tackle and guard or a guard and center, kind of like that. But yeah, they're definitely going to take an offensive lineman.
Yeah, I would think so. I mean, there's a couple of guys I'm checking out, and they're outstanding. It just depends on where they fit. So,
yeah, and the other thing to consider is last season in 2021 when McGlinchey had his injury and went out. I can't think of the guy who came in after him. I'm getting old, but whoever was, his name will pop in my head here in a minute.
Colt Miller?
No, dang it, I can't think of who it was. I'll remember it here in a second. But he's somebody that we all were like, no, we don't want him. And when McGlinchey went down, we're like, we're dead. And he played just as well as McGlinchey. So that tells me that McGlinchey, while he is decent, can be replaced with a guy that we think is terrible. So, gosh dang it. I need to look and see who that was because that's going to bug me. But anyway.
So it's another player from that draft class, right? From the same class?
No, it wasn't it was a veteran that, but I'll remember it here in a second.
Yeah, it takes time. I mean, it has to pop in our head. So I'm kind of thinking the same way. I mean, we can get any other tackle that fills that spot, but McGlinchey, it's like the only thing that McGlinchey does really well is a run blocker. That's all he does well at.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That's McGlinchey's a really good run blocker. But you really, in this league, you have to do more than just run block. And Tom Compton, that's who it was.
Oh, Tom Compton, that dude. Oh, okay, so yeah. I see.
But he was no worse than McGlinchey, and Tom Compton's a guy that we were like, no, we don't even want him to be a backup, and yet, Shanahan's able to take these scrap heap guys and use them to be functional. So.
Yeah, but you have to know the system, and you have to be in some ways you have familiarity with Shanahan. You're likely going to have a job here, so it's like he has a special place for his program for what they call the loyalty program of his. Like if you're Tom Compton, if you're guys like Trent Williams, which I believe that was the best move we made so far, then you have a place in his heart for that spot.
Yeah,
I mean, we'll probably even sign some unknown commodities, like maybe an offensive lineman that we probably thought was trash, but probably looks good in our system. Mm-hmm. Maybe that would be the trend. But speaking of the Niners offense, I mean, if we can improve one spot at the tight end spot besides Kittle, outside of Kittle, there isn't quite a proven tight end.
Yeah, it would be great if they could find a number 2 tight end who can be a threat in the passing game. And they thought they had that in 2020, but injuries. I mean, that was the injury-riddled season where almost everybody went down, and so it looked like at that time that Shanahan was really wanting a double tight end threat. And so I think that if he could find somebody like that, then yeah, he's going to do it. I mean, can you imagine if he had Ayuk and Debo and McCaffrey and Juice and then Kittle and a second tight end, or even don't have Juszczyk in there and just have the double tight end set.
It would be scary, dude.
Yeah.
That's the problem. Like, I guess we don't have. He doesn't. I don't see why he can't go for another tight end like that. I mean, in this year's draft, there's a solid class. I would be more than happy if we did get this guy early. If we get him in the 3rd round, I wouldn't be upset about this pick. If we get this kid from Iowa, like we have a good track record with these Iowa tight ends, like George Kittle.
Yeah,
it'd be nice to get another one like that. But
yeah.
We'll see about it. But hey, I definitely appreciate your time, bro. So for anybody else that's not too familiar with your channel, tell everybody where they can find you and where your social media platform is.
Yeah, on Twitter, I'm at 49ers Camelot, and I'm pretty active there. So you can check me out, hit me up. I also write for 49ers Web Zone, so you can go there and find the staff page and then scroll down till you see my name and you can see what I do. Or you can go onto YouTube and find the 49ers Camelot show. We're also on iTunes and Spotify, iHeartRadio, all of wherever you listen to your podcasts. So we're there. So check us out.
Yeah, for everybody else, man, he does articles too for the Web Zone, and he definitely has his own podcast show. So if you guys want to check out what he's got to say, he does answer your questions through Twitter or whatever social media. Like, sometimes he even puts like a little question mark with me saying a question, and he'll get to your attention too. If he sees that it's an interesting question, he'll mark it down for you.
Yeah. It's fun. That's one of the things that I really like. It's cool to talk to the fans of the team and see what people are thinking, and that's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it is. Hey, before we end the show, I got one more question for you to ask. You can put it on your article.
All right.
Is there going to be a replacement for Mike McGlinchey? Can we get an answer? I mean, we don't know.
Yeah, it actually. I just put out a mailbag today through 49ers Web Zone. And I think that was kind of a question that was asked. And so, yeah, I threw out the Colton McKivitz is obviously going to be an option. Jalen Moore is an option. And then that's when John Chapman mentioned Burford moving to right tackle. So I wouldn't be surprised if it's one of those three. I like the Burford idea, but I think that they probably are going to go McKivitz or Jalen Moore. That would be my best guess, but I hope that they go with somebody who's even better.
At least better at that upgrade. At least better at that spot, but
yeah.
But okay, so let's put an interesting question for your next question. So for tight end, do you think we can get a number 2? And you can put that into the little Q&A question if you want to.
All right. Yeah, I think that definitely would like to see that for sure.
Yeah, for sure, man. Hey, but I thank you for your time. We're already getting past that mark, bro. So
my pleasure.
Yeah, my pleasure, bro. Maybe down the road I'll come on your show this time around. So maybe
sounds good.
Yeah, schedule me next week. But thank you everybody for tuning in. Me and Mark are out, and as always, go Niners.